I would like to reconvene the meeting for the Board of Trustees for Long Beach Community College District for a meeting on September 23rd, 2014. If everyone could please stand, I'm going to ask Trustee Archuleta to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, if you could please call roll of the Board of Trustees.
President Kellogg.
Here.
Vice President Otto.
Here.
Member Baxter.
Here.
Member Zia.
Here.
And Member Archuleta.
Here.
Student Trustee Root.
Here.
Report on closed session. There was no action taken by the board at this time from our closed session. Introduction, special acknowledgements. Superintendent President Oakley, do you have anyone?
None at this time.
Thank you. Reordering of the agenda, I'm going to pull the item for the student trustee report. I'm actually going to move it to right now. So at this time, I would like to recognize our student trustee for his report. Student
Thank you,
trustee
President
Root?
Kellogg. First off, I'd like to say welcome to our newest trustee for District Area 2, Ms. Irma Archuleta. I look forward to working with you, helping carry on the groundwork that Roberto Uranga laid for the students that he represented in District Area 2. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, with that being said, almost 30 days into the semester, it has seen its speed bumps with construction and parking issues at the top of the list, as always. Higher numbers of new students, first semester freshmen, have added to the congestion, but with the help of text alerts and informative emails, the transition has been easier than ever for these students. Late start classes registration has also seen an increase in enrollment over the previous semesters, with incentives offered to students for adding 3 or more units, such as LBCC shirts and cell phone chargers as just a few of the gifts offered. Students jumped at the chance. 12-week courses begin this Friday, September 22nd, and also begin the 8-week courses on October 2nd. Now, I'd also like to revisit an issue that a former student trustee initially brought upon, that is open source textbooks. The former trustee argued that open source textbooks were necessary and desired by the impoverished students not only at LBCC but throughout California. She stated that high cost of textbooks put low-income students in financial hardship, and without the use of this free and unregulated textbook source, they could not afford school. With programs such as EOP&S and CalWORKS, which provides textbook assistance to those very students, which she failed to mention, this is not the case. Also, open source textbooks are similar information type sources as Wikipedia, in which anybody can input or delete at will to the text and choose and make up unreliable true facts. As I walk around campus, I see these same students who say that they are financially strapped due to the high cost of textbook costs, hold conversations on the newest $600 iPhone. Apologize for that.
Good timing.
That's not an iPhone, by the way. On the newest $600 iPhone while wearing the newest $200 pair of Jordan shoes, while receiving financial aid and BOG fee waivers. And I have to ask them, what's more important to them, higher education or high-end electronics or high fashion? Many of my fellow student trustees throughout California now feel the same as I do and are sharing the same type of argument with their community college districts. Also, Long Beach City College has 2 student leaders that sit on the auxiliary board, Kenneth Jones and Lokalani Hunt, who also have information for students as to textbooks assistance, also with the help of Barnes & Noble. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is public comments on agenda items. Madam Secretary, I have no cards. Anyone wishing to address the board on agenda items? That is correct. Thank you. Item 1.1. This is On the informational item, it's an announcement of intent to reappoint the board's appointment to the Personnel Commission. The Board of Trustees announced the intention to appoint Richard Gaylord to the Personnel Commission for a 3-year term commencing December 1st, 2014 and ending at noon on December 1st, 2017. This is an informational item only. Members of the board, Chair recognizes Trustee Otto.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things about this reappointment. Dick Gaylord has served on the Personnel Commission for 12, 14 years, I don't know how long, and it's a thankless job. It's a tremendous amount of work, and I just wanted to personally say how much I appreciated all the work that he's done. But it came into particularly sharp focus when we engaged in this process to select the new provisional trustee, because we formed a committee, and Dick was on that committee. We met 3 times in 3 weeks, and his contribution was exceptional. He was always there. He was always willing to help, and he did a great job. And so Dick's service to Long Beach City College for a very long time now is deeply appreciated by me, and I think the entire college, because of all that he does. And I just wanted to personally recognize him, as I presume we're going to reappoint him to the Personnel Commission.
Thank you. Other members of the board, Chair recognizes Trustee Zia.
Yes, I am new to this process, and I wanted to see what was the process followed for the reappointment. Did we advertise? Did we give the public time to review, see if they're interested? I'm sure we did, but if someone can educate me on this process.
Superintendent President Oakley.
Yes, so there's some narrative in item 1.1, the sheet there. You see the Ed Code requirements, that the appointment must be made in open session of the district appointed personnel commission, and that after 30 days, but within 45 days of the announcement, the board shall provide the public employees and employee organizations an opportunity to express their views. So this was Mr. Gaylord has been the district's appointee. The Personnel Commission is made up of 3 individuals. One that's appointed by the Board of Trustees, Mr. Dick Gaylord. One that is appointed by the union representing the classified employees, which is Jackie Wilvers. And one that is a co-appointee, and that is Janine McManigal-Balls. So when there's a vacancy, there is an announcement process, and at least for the board's appointment, there is a process by which the board would go and advertise for the position. But since the board already has an appointee and the board chose to continue the appointee, then we just have to open up an opportunity for the public to comment, and we received no comments.
Okay, so when you say the board chose to reappoint, was this a previous decision that was made, or is this the decision that we're talking about now?
So if you look at the last sentence, the Ed Code provides that a public hearing will be held and an appointment will be made on October 28th, 2014. So right now we're making the announcement that the board intends to reappoint Mr. Gaylord. Certainly that's the board's intent. And so between now and October 28th, certainly the public can comment on that, and at the meeting on October 28th, a public hearing will be held on that appointment.
Thank you.
All right, again, informational item only. And I would concur with Trustee Otto's comments about the professional
And,
work.
Mr. Kellogg, I do
Trustee
also.
Gaylord.
I do also.
Yeah, and actually, we appreciate what they do on the Personnel Commission, because at many colleges in California, they do not have a Personnel Commission, and all those responsibilities and duties falls on the Board of Trustees to work through, and that's a lot of work. So we do appreciate the time they take. So again, this is informational item only. We'll move on to consent calendar. Consent calendar items. Could I entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items?
So move.
There's a motion. by trustee Baxter.
I'd like to pull some items.
First, I need to, before we get to that, can we approve the consent calendar first, and then I'll ask for items to be removed? Approving the consent calendar, and then I'll ask for,
So moved.
there's a motion, a second. Which items would you like to remove, trustee Zia?
Under item 4, 12.2, 12.6, and 12.7.
Motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 12.2, 12.6, 12.7 for additional comments. Madam Secretary, if there's other comments, questions, members of the board at this time. If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on approval of consent calendar.
President Kellogg,
Aye.
Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Archuleta,
Aye.
Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye.
The motion carries. We have items 12.2, 12.6, and 12.7. Just so, again, we're following Robert's rules, we need to have a motion now on those three items, then we'll open up for discussion. So the motion would be, may I entertain a motion to approve those three items, and then we'll have discussion on those three.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Otto,
Second.
second by trustee Baxter to approve 12.2, 12.6, 12.7. Discussion. Chair recognizes trustee Zia.
Thank you, President Kellogg. So under 12.2, I see few contract awards, and just the question I had was this part of a pre-qualification process that we followed, or was it something that we put out to bid? And then what was the justification to get the best value for the district?
Which one?
12.2
Oh,
contract awards.
There are four.
There's multiple ones on 12.2. Are you talking to a specific one, or are you talking about all of them?
Just, I'm asking the question as far as, was it put out to bid? Was it a pre-qualification process, as Anne-Marie stated previously? The process that we follow differs for various contracts. So for all of those contracts, long answer to your question.
So the policy is on these.
If I can just ask another clarifying question. So the background on each of these items, for example, item, the first one, CN 22058.8, on the background says the architect to provide analysis, design, construction, on and on. 2 architectural firms were interviewed from the pre-approved architects list, resulting from request for qualification 09-004. So is there an additional question above what's already in the background, or,
Right.
and what's that question?
The question is, what was the process followed to make sure we get the best value price-wise for the district?
Okay. Vice President Gable?
And then when was this RFQ issued?
RFQ for which one? All 4?
No, just the first one.
No, the first one.
We'll just go one by one.
Okay. All right.
So for the first one, we did an RFQ in 2009 to pre-qualify the list of architects. So that was just about 5 years ago. We are getting ready to do another RFQ for another approval of architect firms, since we let those lists run for 5 years. And so that was back on that. From that list that was pre-approved, we did interview 2 of the firms on the list, and we selected the one that we're recommending here, architects McDonald, Suter, and Paz, based upon their experience and knowledge of the project, which is the Building D, a science. It's really for the science modernization of the Building D. So there's going to be science labs, and so we needed architects with specific experience related to science remodels, and that was how they were selected.
And what was the basis for determining fairness and reasonableness of cost?
When we do the RFQ, it's not based upon cost, it's based upon qualifications and experience for various types of projects. And so when we did the interviews, it was really based upon the scope of the service, who has the best expertise with science buildings, who has the best track record with getting approval through DSA, which is the Division of State Architects, and that type of thing. Typically, when you're looking at architectural services, there's an industry standard of about 2% of construction costs for remodels and modernizations, and about 8% for brand new construction. And so we generally fall within those guidelines, sometimes less. Very rarely, I don't know of any that is actually more than that, but it's either, and so this would be a remodel, it would be about 10% of the proposed or estimated construction cost. We really don't know what the construction cost is going to be until we actually bid the project.
May I ask a question?
Chair recognizes
Mr.
trustee Baxter.
Kellogg, yes. I would like to know, as part of this investigation, are they going to look at the planetarium and the problem they have with the elevator and the telescopes?
No, this is the first floor remodel only.
Okay, so it's only the first floor?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions on this item? 12.2. 12.6.
I have a question. On the other items, I don't think that it was addressed. As far as, this is under 12.2, as far as the process followed, was it also an RFQ, or was it a construction bid? That was,
Well,
the
again,
second one is the
trustees,
RFQ.
yeah, yes, the RFQ is listed right there on the background. The last item on there, I'll let Vice President Gable describe how that how that contract was let out.
Before you go there, that RFQ, is it safe to assume it was 2011 when we advertised for this?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what that code means. I just keep seeing the same contractors show up in these in our agenda, and I understand it's qualification-based selection, but I just want to have an understanding of, is there at a certain time we kick the tires and give opportunity for new contractors?
Just to assist staff, when you say you see the same contractors, if there's particular contractors you see coming up, please bring that up at that time, because I don't believe that Architects McDonald, Suter, and Paz we've seen before. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're a new architecture firm that we haven't used in the past.
But RBKK and Commerce Consultants that's what I've continuously seen. And nothing against those firms, I'm just trying to understand our process.
Right, so with RBKK, they are an entity that does our Inspector of Record services, which is required by the Division of State Architects. So for every construction project that we have to have what's called an IOR, or an Inspector of Record, on site every minute that the contractor is working. And so they are overseeing every step that the contractor makes to ensure that they are building the building in accordance with the approved DSA plans. There are various levels of IORs that you can have depending upon what type of work is going on at any given time. And so we have to ensure that any inspector of record firm that is on our pre-approved list has the various levels needed for the particular projects. So when we do work, or when we do recommend one of the inspector of record firms, it is based upon the pre-approved list that has already been vetted with this RFQ 11001, and it's matching both their staffing that they have, availability of staffing for the construction period, as well as the level of services and qualifications of their employees to what we need for the particular building that's being constructed at that time. With Commerce Consultants, the last contract there, again, in the background, we listed that we did select them from the pre-approved list that was done, RFQ 10001, which was in 2010, and this is a firm that does the construction materials testing. So again, the Division of State Architects and Title 24 guidelines mandate that we do soils testing, do testing on weldments that go into the buildings. Just about every single thing that you could test, we have to test. And so we have to have the specialized firm that does that.
Okay, great, thank you. And are these, the last two items, were they within the 10% of the cost, our internal estimate, as far as the price is concerned for Converse and RBKK?
No, the construction materials and the testing inspectors, those are on an hourly basis. It's only the architects that is typically the 8 or the 10%, depending upon the type of construction.
So for Converse consultants, how did we deem their price to be fair and reasonable?
We look at what other kind of industry standards are for paying for that. Both of these are on, it's a not to exceed amount. And so at this point in time, we don't think that we would exceed these dollar amounts based upon the testing that we think will be needed on that, as well as how long the inspector of record will be on the job site. You will see if a construction project gets delayed, then we have to extend the inspector of record contracts because now the time period has been extended and they have to be there longer. So you will see several amendments to IOR contracts due to delays in construction because now they have to be there longer, and that wasn't part of the original estimate. And the same could be true with the testing firms.
Okay, so when you say not to exceed for this contract, it's $171,983. Is that based on their proposal?
That's based upon what we think and what we get estimates from the architects of all of the testing that would need to be done. And so they help us devise what they think the estimate would be for the services that are needed. And so that's kind of how that amount is derived.
All right. Are we moving forward to 12.6 now?
Yes.
All right, 12.6.
To under 12.6 for Millbrook's Kitchen and Estrella PR and Marketing. What was the original contract value and what's the new amount? Because I see these amendments every time in our docket, but I just see this piece of the pie. So I just want to get an idea of how much was it originally and how much did it grow to if we were to approve this?
I don't have that information with me. Vice President Bynum is estimating what she thinks it may be. These really fall under her area.
Yes, Trustee Zia, the Millbrook Kitchens is actually an employer that we work with. I think this came up at the last board meeting, actually. An employer we work with in our work experience program with our CalWorks students, and we assign them work study experiences with them and pay anywhere from 25% to 75% of the hourly rate. They have been working with us over the course of the last couple of 3 years. I think they started off with a contract, if I recall, around $36,000 or so. And this is an amendment to increase that contract amount so we can place more students with him. Lisette Flores is, I think her contract was around $90,000 or so. I'll check and get you the correct amount when we first started. She's been with us for 3 years. This is an amendment to extend the work that she's doing in the SBDC, but primarily the Goldman Sachs program. She's contracted to do outreach for us with targeted audiences in the region in Los Angeles.
Thank you.
12, or up to 12.7, which is the use of other agencies' bids.
Yes, on 12.7 under unrestricted general fund, purchase order 73815, the item for trustee election costs, is this, can you please expand on that and give a little bit more background and detail?
That is the cost that is charged to the district for the election.
I understand that, I gathered that, but it was at for last year's election.
For this most recent April election.
Right. So as far as I know in the budget, or when we went through our process of appointing our colleague here, there was about $292,000 that was allocated or contemplated because of what it may have cost. So now that we don't have to incur that cost, are we going to be seeing that added to this list? How is that going to be
So
handled?
this is the cost that was incurred in the April election, has nothing to do with the proposed costs. The proposed costs that we discussed at the board meeting for the possible special election was never included in the budget because the board never decided to act on that. And so that cost was just brought to the board as an information item, but it was never included in the budget.
Great, thank you for clarifying. I must have gone by knuckles over the numbers. And then the second one on the restricted general funds for the 70,000. Can you give a little background on that as far as what that entails?
We issue parking permits like the one you have in your car. This Graphic Design West creates those parking permits, and that's the cost for the parking permits.
And were they the lowest cost provider?
I don't know. Do we have any background on how long we've been using Graphic Design West?
We've been using them for quite some time. We haven't done an RFP on this since it falls underneath the bidding thresholds. We're not required to. So it's a local vendor that we use that turns it around relatively quickly for us. They have our design template in place, and so it makes it easier for us to use them. This is also an open purchase order, so it's kind of like a not to exceed amount. We don't necessarily know that we will spend the entire 70,000, but that was just the estimate for the purchase order.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be noted on the record that is about almost $400,000 out of the $942,000 some here that is under $25,000, and I want to again make the point that I'd like to see it itemized and know what I'm approving. Thank you.
Thank you. No other items at this time. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 12.2, 12.6, 12.7. There is a motion and a second on the floor. No other discussion. Members of the board. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
President Kellogg.
Aye.
Vice President Otto.
Aye.
Member Archuleta.
Aye.
Member Baxter.
Aye.
And Member Zia.
Abstain. The reason for that is that until we get the board dockets with the information that I know our superintendent is working diligently on, until we get that, I'm going to continue to vote this way because I don't know if there's potential conflict of interest in the items that are not itemized in our docket. And
So
I just want to clarify that.
Your abstention then is based on you have stated a conflict of interest in those items.
I don't know. I said the possibility, and I don't know how any of us can know without seeing the item.
I don't quite know how Robert's Rules plays on that, but let's just, for the record, it is, you are abstaining because there is a conflict. It can't be a potential conflict, so.
I believe last time we said that it was noted for the record because of a potential. I don't know if I have a conflict or not. If I see the item, if it was in the docket, I can tell you if I don't or not.
So let the record reflect then potential conflict stated by Trustee Zia as a reason for abstention when that votes for 12.2, 12.6, 12.7. All right, moving ahead. Academic Senate, no items at this time. Thank you. Superintendent President report.
I have no items, no action items at this point.
Thank you. Academic Affairs.